Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? It is your man, the Muscle Motivator. It's Friday, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of No Label Live, the podcast where we talk about what your labels may have been, what they may currently be, but most importantly, how our labels are just things that develop our story and we have the power to change them. I'm super excited because today's guest is someone I met at the Summit of Greatness from a mutual friend, Vasil Karamanov. And so our guest today is all about mindset and helping people live healthier, happier lives through transformation. And this gentleman's name is Schuyler Diehm. Schuyler, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Nathan. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's got you excited right now in 2019?
Oh, man. 2019 for me is the year of fruition. I've been working for the past 2 years on building just myself and building my business and just building kind of everything around me. And everything, it just feels like it's all coming to alignment this year. And for me, 2019 is the year of the grind, as every single other year is, but it's where everything really starts to pay off for me. So really excited about that.
All right. So what are some of the things that before 2019 happened that might have been things that were barriers or labels that you placed on yourself that without going through what you've been through, you wouldn't be who you are right now?
Oh, man. That's a great question. So the first one that just popped in my head when you said that was I'm not a good businessman. I'm not good with business. Cause it's crazy. I've been studying this stuff for a long time. It's my passion. I'm super invested in it. And the initial thought for me, who I didn't have an entrepreneurship background, a business background, the initial thought for me was I put a good product together, or I put something, I create something that's good, everyone's going to want it. But for someone who's done that, that's not the case at all. There's marketing that goes behind it. There's a way you frame it. There's so much that goes into it. And so for the first year of not seeing any fruition from what I was doing, for me, that was the label. It's I'm not a good businessman. I'm not good. But how that's changed this year is you begin to understand that label doesn't hold you back. That's not something you're boxed in forever. And for me, that may or may not be true, but it's something I can improve on. It's something I can break free of. It's not something that I'm not good at business, which means I'm not going to be good at business for the rest of my life. That's just not true.
That's super powerful. What you said right there is the fact that no matter what our label is, right, at some level, as long as we identify with it, it will be true. But that's the whole point of the no label is, okay, take it off, replace it with something else. And man, that whole create a good product and thinking that it's just going to be, people are down the door. Oh, that is not true at all, my friends. Not true.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Man, we would all be entrepreneurs and we would all be rolling in dough, man.
Definitely.
So what really gets you fired up when you think about mindset? What gets you fired up?
All right. So mindset is the biggest passion of mine lately. Growing up, my biggest passion was lifting weights, total gym addict. I was the meathead. I was, I was benching a lot of weight, squatting a lot of weight, super buff. Mm-hmm. And an injury kind of stopped me in my tracks, and I had to get shoulder surgery, and I ended up losing 20 pounds of muscle that I worked 7 years to get. And so through that process, I just started working on the mind. And, when I was lifting weights, for me, that was my escape. That was how I coped with things. That was my therapy. But I wasn't really working on the mind directly. Now, you could definitely argue lifting weights and all that definitely, it strengthens the mind for sure, pushing through those moments of pain. But for me, it was never like direct work. Like I wasn't learning new things. It was kind of just, I was creating grit, but I didn't really learn how to control my mind, how to improve my mind. And so when I got that injury, I was kind of, in that zone of, okay, well, I can't work out my physical body now. I'm in a sling. Like even when I was out of the sling, like it was still hurting. So why not put that energy towards my mind? And what really got me excited about that was, or even now, just looking back, what gets me so excited is the person that I've become in literally like 2 years. Like the amount of growth I've seen in the past 2 years is exponential compared to the rest of my life. Like it's so crazy how when you create the right habits and routines and you work on the mind consistently, how much you just change. Like your happiness goes up, like your confidence goes up, like anything you're struggling with mentally, most of the time it can be really traced back to the way you think and how your mind works. And if you spend some time like cultivating that mindset and working on it, it just hypes me up so much, like how different of a person you can become. And if you're not happy in an area, like you can change that through consistent work.
So let's say I'm that person who's sitting there in the sling, right? And working out was my thing. And now I'm thinking, okay, I do want to do that mental work. What's one exercise that got you going to building your habits?
Read. I'd say, there's tons of different exercises out there, meditation, gratitude, like so many different things you can be doing, but reading is so special to me. And I think it's something everyone should be doing more of, especially personal development books, because we normally, like when we have this, we're in the age of information overload, right? Like we can look on YouTube, we can go to podcasts, we're surrounded by information that like throughout the day, we're hit with so many different pieces of information. But if we go out and we pick a book on a subject that we're passionate about or something that we want to learn more about, and we sit down and we read that for like, whether it's 10 pages a day or whether it's like an hour a day or a couple of hours, like we are now focused. So we're in the zone when we're learning, and that information speaks to us more. And like, rather than just, listening to a 30-minute podcast where someone talks about a subject and they're teaching you, when you have a book, like there's so many different pages and so many different pieces of information that something is bound to stick. So like you're reading through these books and there could be a page that doesn't really mean much to you, even though there's a lot of awesome information. But then the next page, there's like 1 or 2 pieces of information and like a light goes on in your life. So like for me, like reading is, it's huge. I love it. And I really think if you pick the right books and you just like, you take some time, sit down, like get uncomfortable, get away from your phone. That's definitely one of the best things you can do for your mindset, because you're learning new information and you'll get new ideas, and it's a time for you to really, in a way, it's a time for you to slow down so you can speed up in the future.
Slow down to speed up. I like that. So when you were talking about reading, this is what I was thinking. I was thinking, so what do you think from hardcover to whether it's an Audible audiobook? Do you think that matters? Do you think that someone may receive the information differently? What are your thoughts on that?
It's tough, just because I've never been the audiobook person. I love podcasts. That's the audio I listen to, but I'm also a big fan of sitting down and reading. I'm pretty sure I've read somewhere, I can't promise you that this is true, I should probably double check, but that when you read, different parts of the brain are activated and you kind of, you consume the information more efficiently in the brain. But at the same time, some people are audio learners versus visual learners. And yeah, honestly, I think it depends on the person. Like if you enjoy audiobooks, more power to you, right? If you can't find time in your day, or you don't want to find time in your day to sit down and read, and you can throw on an audiobook when you're driving in the car, again, more power to you.
And I think too, that kind of goes back to, for you, sitting down and reading is more than just about the book itself. It's actually about creating a ritual of, as you said, slowing down, and kind of getting in a relaxed mode so that once you get the information you're looking for, you can speed up after you're done. So, that kind of segues into another thing. I imagine you've read this book, but I don't know. I'm going to throw it out there because I have a specific topic I want to talk to you about. So, The One Thing.
I have not read The One Thing. It's on my list, but I haven't gotten there. But
Okay.
I know the premise.
So here's the reason I wanted to bring that up. In one of your posts that I read, you talked about willpower, and that's a big component of The One Thing. So the way that I like to look at willpower is I call it my gas tank. And so every day we start full, and then we make it down to empty. And the way I use it is, okay, when I'm full, I need to prioritize the most important actions related to whatever I'm working on during the day. What are your thoughts on willpower?
I think it's, once again, it's a mix of that. I think definitely you should be doing like the hard tasks at the beginning of the day. Like that is based on, science and brain chemistry and all that. Like your I'm forgetting the hormone name now. There's a certain level hormone in your brain that, like, as the day goes on, it lowers. It looks like you're thinking.
I know. I don't.
It's you know what it is? It's blood glucose. It's glucose level. So it's not even a hormone, but basically as the day goes on and your glucose levels drop, your decisions kind of get worse and worse. And there's a cool study where someone monitored like a judge throughout the day, and like in the morning she had much more favorable rulings, and then it dropped, and then she had food, which was another spike in her glucose levels, and then her decisions went up, and then again they dropped.
Either after lunch or in the morning.
Yeah. So there's definitely some truth to that, but I also think willpower is something that can be built. To me, willpower and discipline kind of go hand in hand. It's like, I feel like a lot of people think of willpower as, you always feel like doing these things. Like you build up the willpower and you're in the moment, and you want to do something, so you do it because it comes easy to you. But like, to me, building willpower is building up that mindset where in those moments where you've committed to something, you follow through even if you don't feel like it. Because there's going to be times where you don't feel like it. You're never going to be 100% on top of things. So to me, it's like you build the willpower through consistent action, through setting goals and following through. Like there's a ton that goes into it, but ultimately it's something that, yes, in the morning definitely it's stronger, but it is something that you can build through other ways to improve other parts of your life.
All right. So where's a place where you've seen that kind of develop for you, like that sense of that it can be something that's developed? How did that work out for you?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So I used to hate the mornings. I used to sleep in. Whenever I set my alarm, I would press snooze 5, 6, 7 times. I would go to bed late. Like I was not a morning person. Like I would wake up and I would not want to talk to anyone because I was groggy, like for literally probably like 1 or 2 hours after I woke up. And I had a point where when I started my first full-time job, I obviously had to start waking up earlier again. And I was in that same routine, alarm goes off, hit snooze a few times, then finally drag myself out of bed and go through my morning. And then there was one day where I kind of made the decision, because I was still a gym addict at that point, still going like every single day during the week, that I wanted to make more time after work for my free time. So I was like, okay, I'm normally going to the gym, so I might as well go to the gym before work. And, obviously makes sense in the mind. Wake up earlier, go to the gym, go to work, come home, hang out, do nothing. But it's a completely different story when you wake up and you hear that alarm, like especially when it's super early. So like for me, I was trying for weeks and weeks and weeks to get up early, and I would be like maybe successful like 2 or 3 times during the week. Still snoozing every single morning, but like very, very, I would still be able to pull myself out of bed. And then like the other few days I would snooze a couple times and I'd convince myself, I can go off to work. Like I'm just going to get some more sleep, and I'd go back to bed. And throughout that process, I kind of started to get aggravated because every night I would go to bed and I'd be like, this is it. Like I'm really going to get up this time. First alarm, like I'm just going to do it. And every morning I would wake up and it wouldn't happen. And basically throughout weeks of trial and error, of research, of really, really just like getting angry that I wasn't able to do this, I was able to slowly figure it out. And I've slowly built the habit of getting up on the first alarm, getting out of bed, starting my day, like whenever I set the alarm, rather than hitting snooze, maybe getting up, maybe going back to bed. And for me, that was definitely my firsthand experience because, I labeled myself, again, going back to the labels, like I am a night owl. I am not an early riser. But because I wanted it, because I put some things in place, and because I trusted the process, like even though it took me, I'm pretty sure it took me around like 6 months to build this habit. Because I stuck with it, I was able to change that, and I was able to build willpower, which not only affected that moment during my day, but then carried over to other parts of my life.
Yeah, so it translated to other things. That's awesome. So did that experience lead to you writing your book that's behind you there?
Yes, it did. Yeah.
So if somebody picks that up, what can they gain from reading the Snooze Stopper?
Definitely. All right. So in the Snooze Stopper, I'm going to introduce a concept that may be a little strange to people, but I want to share that like pressing snooze, as ridiculous as this sound, is making you more tired. It's ruining your mindset. It's causing you to procrastinate in other areas of your life. And it's helping you or forcing you to lose confidence. Like it's not allowing you to be more confident in your life. And so in the Snooze Stopper, I break that down, really talk about why the snooze is doing that, studies backed by science, my own personal experience, everything like that. And then in the second part of the book, I break down this really, really awesome framework that came from, the book was called, I think, Switch. And it's how when you want to make any change in your life, you need 3 things in alignment. You need your logic. So you need to know that this is a good decision. Like this is actually what I want to change. You need your emotions. So you need like a strong feeling of why you're doing this, and you really are emotionally behind it. And then you need your environment. You need like everything surrounding you to be promoting this thing that you do. So what I do in the workbook is I actually like break down for each individual one a custom plan tailored to getting rid of the snooze button. Just to kind of give you an example of some things that are in it. Like one of the examples is if you immediately wake up and press snooze, put your phone across the room or your alarm across the room. And then I have like something that follows up, because I know what I used to do is I would do that and then I would get up and I would go back in bed. So what I figured out is you can do one alarm there, and then you put a second alarm for like 2 or 3 minutes later somewhere else in your house, apartment, condo, whatever. Bonus points if it's like right outside someone else's room, because then you wake up, you hear your first alarm, and you're like, I got to get out of the room, turn off that other alarm before it goes off.
Yeah.
So you head over there, turn it off. So like the whole workbook is really revolving around like, if this is a habit that you really do want to break, I basically take you through the system of how to do it.
Awesome. I'm sure we'll link that stuff in the comments for the show so people can check that out. I only have a couple more questions. So first, you mentioned you weren't an early riser, right? And now you have a podcast that's the Early Riser podcast. So what is the definition of an early riser to you?
I'm very glad you asked. So most people hear early riser and they think of You have to wake up by 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. or before the sun. But to me, it's not really about timing. It's just not only waking up earlier than you have to, but also what you do with that time. So for example, you could wake up at 4 a.m. and for the first 4 hours of your day, scroll through social media, roll around in your bed, like watch TV. And to me, you wouldn't be an early riser. But someone who would be an early riser to me, which a lot of people may not think about, is like, say you're a night shift worker and you have to get up at 9 p.m. to get to work on time. If you wake up at 8:30 p.m. and for 30 minutes have some sort of a quote morning routine, you're an early riser to me. Like it's waking up earlier than you would have to really complete your day and using that time to get better on a consistent basis.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, I can relate to the times of just scrolling through the Instagram for sure.
Yeah, of course.
I know a lot of people can, but I like that frame of reference because to me that also goes back to the whole willpower thing, right? Because if you're that night shift worker, your early day is going to be a different time than everyone else, and it's
exactly
developing that skill to create the habits that you want. And then, so if you had your younger self sitting across from you, like I am now your younger self, what would you tell your younger self is now possible for them, and what would you thank them for?
Oh man, I thought that question was going in a completely different direction. So all right, so my younger self, thank him for, and what was the other thing?
What do you know is possible now that he didn't know back then?
Okay. So what's possible is to be your true self and to fully accept it. When I was in high school, college, before then in middle school, I was a very self-conscious person. I wasn't confident in who I was, and I was always just trying to fit in. And on the surface, it appeared like I was confident. It appeared like I was just naturally fitting in. But to me, it was like a lot of internal struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So like transforming to the person I am now, I think just going back and letting them know, like, or letting me know, like this is possible. Like you're going to be fine. That's definitely the first thing I would let him know. And then in terms of thanking him, I think just thanking him for not being satisfied. Because I think I could have been in that position and I could have just accepted it. Like, I'm always going to be like this. There's nothing I can do. I'll just sleep in all the time. I'm just going to fit in, just going to work at a job that I'm not happy at. Like, do all these things that aren't fulfilling for me, that don't make me happy. And I think I would really just thank him for not settling for less.
Beautiful. And the sky's the limit, right?
Absolutely.
2019 is only the tip of the iceberg. What's something that you wish when you are on these interviews, people would ask you, but they don't?
Dude, you're killing it with these questions. That's awesome. Oh, man. I don't even know.
Well, so what's a topic of mindset that you really enjoy that nobody even, maybe it's because people don't know about it, or maybe it's just a topic that's not really talked about?
So I guess the question would be, like, what is your favorite part of your morning routine or your daily routines in general? Because I'm big on having morning routines, nighttime routines, and I just really like sharing the power of gratitude. I think that, our brains are trained however we train them. And if we train them, whether purposefully or probably not purposefully, if we train them to be negative all the time, if we train them to be anxious, always thinking about worst case scenario, like that's what they'll become.
Mm-hmm.
But what gratitude does, and what I really love about it, is like it forces you to think about the positive, to really think about what you're grateful for in the present, to think about like maybe the good things that happened in the past, or maybe the bad things that turned out to be good for you. And when you think about these things and you express gratitude, it literally changes the way the brain works, and you begin to become a more positive person, and you begin to see a lot more good things happening in your life. And they were happening, like they're happening to everyone right now. But a lot of people, their brains just aren't trained to pick them up and to be happy about them.
Yeah, we get stuck in that survival mode, I think. So we are always like, oh, what's the worst case scenario? Because I need to know how to survive that.
Definitely. Yeah. Now we're in thrival mode. Like, it's up to us to be more positive, to look at like the good things that are happening, because there's a lot of them. And if you just practice gratitude like once or twice a day, and literally just write down like 3 things you're grateful for in your life, over time, you're going to see a lot of things change.
Beautiful. Before the last question, where can people connect with you?
So you can find me on Instagram. That's probably my biggest platform, at Early Risers Movement. If you want like I have a ton of free guides and free stuff on my website. That'd be earlyrisersmovement.com. And then Schuyler Diehm on Facebook, which you're not going to be able to spell it just from hearing me. So you spell it right, Nathan, in the title.
Yeah, it's right there. So
yeah, and you can connect with me there, and that's definitely those are the spots.
all right. So the last question is, what does no label defines me mean to you?
Since we met, I have been thinking about that a lot, because there's so much that goes into it. And I really think it's all about like not categorizing yourself and not believing that category. And whether that's, listening to the opinion of someone else trying to put a label on you, or the labels that we put on ourselves. For me, I'm not a morning person. I'm a night owl. Breaking through those labels. And I think that if you're really, really set on creating the best life, you cannot categorize yourself and put you in one thing. Like if you say I am, it better be positive. Like, because if it's not, you're not doing good things for your own life. So that's what no label defines.
The I am better be positive. I love it. Dude, this was an awesome interview. I know people will get lots of value from it. So if you watch this and you're like, yeah, I really relate to this, I got a lot of value, make sure and let us know. Make sure and comment, and make sure and share it to anybody who you know can get value from it. And we will see you next Friday for another episode of No Label Live. Everybody have a great weekend. And, when you're up to big things, you must be patient, you must be diligent, and you must never, never quit, because no label defines you. Your label should always, always empower you.